The modern civil rights movement burst into the scene with the year-long bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama that began December 5, 1955. 9 years later, the Civil Rights Act was signed into law, and in 1965, the Voting Rights Act was enacted, formally ending legal apartheid in the United States. It's no mistake that the civil rights movement took shape with the bus boycott. It was a strategic campaign led by Black working-class organizers that targeted the bottom line of the segregated transportation system.
A boycott, much like a strike, is a tactic used to disrupt the economic interests of the capitalist ruling class. In Montgomery, though Black folks made up the majority of public bus passengers, they were forced to sit in the back of the bus in racially segregated seating, and were often forced to give up their seats to white passengers.
When Martin Luther King Jr. first spoke at a mass meeting in Montgomery after Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat for a white man, the demand of the bus boycott struggle was not yet for full desegregation of the buses, but the struggle took on its own dynamic. At a meeting after the first day, organizers decided to continue the boycott. With each passing day, the boycott movement grew. People began to feel their growing power.
Confronted by the movement, the racist ruling class viciously attacked organizers, employing violence in an attempt to stop Black self-determination. They carried out armed assaults, shootings, and bombings, all in an attempt to preserve white capitalist social and economic control. When violence failed to quell the movement, the state indicted 89 people on an old law prohibiting boycotts. King was the first defendant. He was sentenced to spend 368 days in the state penitentiary, or pay a heavy fine.
Undeterred, the boycott continued and started to have an impact on sales and revenues of white-owned businesses. Even racist businessmen wanted to end the boycott. It ultimately took a federal court and then a Supreme Court decision to end the boycott in 1956 by declaring that segregation of buses was unconstitutional.
The Montgomery bus boycott was not the first struggle in the modern civil rights movement, but it was a catalyst and a turning point. The masses of people had become the central actors. Their mobilized power was the factor that changed the balance of forces. This, in turn, inspired others to take action. Working people, empowered by the Black liberation struggle, coordinated mass actions across the South and beyond. A new political consciousness swept the country.
This remarkable chapter in U.S. history should really be known as the Civil Rights Revolution, rather than the Civil Rights Movement. Only after years of organized struggle by Black workers was the apartheid police state of the Jim Crow South dismantled. The U.S. capitalist political establishment only made these concessions as a way of preventing an increasingly militant and conscious Black freedom movement from passing over to outright revolution. Nevertheless, the outcome of the Civil Rights Movement is comparable in magnitude to a political revolution. It was an uprising from below, lasting over a decade, which led to a profound reconstruction of the political superstructure in the United States.
We can and should learn from the past and employ strategies and tactics that have proven to succeed. The current wealth of the billionaire elite was built upon the unpaid labor of Black people they enslaved for over 300 years. Like all ruling classes in history, they are prepared to use limitless violence and repression against the people to maintain their hoarding of society's wealth.
We will only defeat the billionaire agenda through well-coordinated mass action. Throughout American history, from the general strike of enslaved African Americans during the Civil War to the bus boycotts and labor strikes of the Civil Rights era, working people have proven that they can defeat racism and exploitation through organized struggle.